start in a few minutes. Please, you are all welcome to our class, and we hope this will inspire a lot and more people are going to join. Our time is on. Welcome, Teacher Mitri. Hope you have been doing well. Maybe before we can start, I will just ask the Queen Mother, Queen Ashula, please, can you just come in and say welcome to our teacher and the audience so that we can start. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken Simon. Greetings to everyone in the house. His Excellency Teacher Mitri, thank you so much. We have missed you. And I was so happy today when I got the news that you're going to be in the house today. So all the best, and we expect a wonderful session. Thank you so much. You're welcome back.
The one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. The one who comes to learn is especially always welcome. Positive and creation energy to all of you out here. It's an honor and a privilege to be back here again. We took a little break. So as we do a century worth of summary, we'll take another break again. So just when we clear the 1800s, we will take our break again and prepare for the 1700s. But it's good to be back here. Let me put your lecture on the screen today. Today I'm going to be teaching you a little more than you all bargained for. It's supposed to be history, but I'm going to add more to it so that it serves the message well. So just give me a sec. Let me get your presentation up here. It's supposed to be history, but I also realize it's an opportunity, more so an opportunity than just history, opportunity as well. So okay. Okay, welcome back to our pinnacle of extraordinary African. So I will start again with another introduction as to what is the pinnacle of extraordinary African. Now, in understanding our ancestor, who we are as a people, our story, we need to understand the height of where we've gone and the height of where we've fallen. And this is a self-reflection. This journey is a self-reflection. This journey is a journey of accountability. It's a journey of looking at how far you have risen and perhaps understanding how far you fell as well. And it's not to say that you are not going to fall again, and it's not to say that you're not going to rise again. It's simply for you to understand how you can fall and how you can rise. That's what this journey is about. So this is something that you should have all learned when you were going to school. This is something they should have taught you in the education system which you come from. But we cannot fault Africa as it is currently for not teaching us the full scope of our history, but because most of the history is not really understood. So here you come here to gain a summary of the history. I'm not going to give you the most intricate details of the history. I'm going to give you the summary of the history so that you walk away from here having an appreciation for the history. And through that appreciation, you might go and learn the history on your own. So this is the timeline of the pinnacle of extraordinary African history, or our story. she call it the her story or our story. That's what the scholars call it. They don't call it history. They call it her story or our story. So the our story of the African people begins. We did the first chapter, which is the 1900s, and now we have where the Africans became the seminary beings, where the seedbed minds. Basically, the the foreigners realized that Africans have this brain that was like a soil, and that if you put a seed inside of this brain and you bury it inside this brain, it would grow. So they realized that African people, our minds are like soil, like the earth itself. Our minds are like that. And anytime someone puts a seed in that mind, that seed can grow and it can take roots. It can take strong, deep roots in the mind of an African. So they did this in the last century of the 1900s. They did this. They worked on the minds of the African people. And when they were done, the African people became who they molded them to become. But when we go to this century in the 1800s, they haven't not, the African people are still who they are, but there's something else happening in the 1800s, which is causing the African to become less of who he needs to be or she needs to be. So in the 1800s, we are going to learn something very different, something very, very about who we are. So we're going to learn about the civil wars and the plot of invasion, and then when the partitioning of Africa, and then the war or the conquest for Africa when they conquered the African people. But before that, there is the period where there is internecine struggle. They call this internecine struggle. Basically, these struggles are conflict between groups, people of the same bone, blood, and skin system. So these internecine struggle weakened the African people. The political instability weakened our people so that the 1900s could become possible. So in order for the 1900s to have become the way they needed to be, everything in the 1800s prepared the way for the 1900s. And in order for the 1800s to become the way it is, everything in the 1700s were prepared for the 1800s. And this is how the history of the African people have gone on. So 100 years before, whatever happens to them, it has always been prepared for them. So currently in the year 2025, whatever you're all being taught, it will prepare you for the next 100 years of your history. So this is how I want you all to understand. So in the 1600s, the 1400s, we go forward, we go down all the way to the 1300s, the 1000s, the 800s, the 600s, the 700s, and the year zero. And from the year zero, we go even backwards. Now we are going to go into the BCE. We're going to learn about the different ages of African people's history or herstory. And we are going to go back as far into what they call the mythological times, or the time of the legendary beings, or the time of the great and the pinnacle of extraordinary African. So we are going to travel back as far until we reach the pinnacle of extraordinary Africans. That's how far we're going to go. It does not matter if they were mythological times. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you should know the mythological times. It does not matter that, they were doing this, they were doing that. No, that's not the importance. The importance is, do I know what my ancestors said about the mythological times? That is why we are going to go through this entire history or our story. Now, this thing you see right in front of you is the book of our story, this giant thing here. Some of you have been told that this is what they call the zodiac. You've been taught that it's called the zodiac, but in our ancestral time, this is not a zodiac. This is a history book. Our ancestors wanted to leave their journey behind for their children. They realized that their children will need to know who they are from the beginning of time until the end of time. And so they carved the history in stone, the story in stone. They did not want the children to forget the story no matter what. They were very, very, determined to keep these children, these people called the African, they were determined to keep them, leave them a reminder of who they are. So they carved it in stone. Then they taught it in the language which The Africans would understand no matter how far they go in time, they taught it in that language, which is the language of images. Because the African learns through images before he learns through other things. Before or she or he learns through anything else in life, he or she learned through the eyes. So the eyes of an African will be able to tell these images because that's how our ancestors understood it. Leave the images behind for their children, so their children one day will become curious enough to find out what these images are, and they could learn the meaning behind it. So this is a history book of our ancestors right here. Now, in this chapter, we are going to deal with the opener of the way first. We are going to go into the Black Republic, and then we are going to go into the century of the unwary and naive people. We are going to go into the century of the unwary and naive people, and from there we are going to go into the age of surveying the African continent for conquest. So now, this is the period where the Europeans are surveying Africa now for conquest. Now the Africans are ready for conquest now. We are ready to conquer them. As of today, as of this date, we are now officially ready to conquer them. We are ready to break their backs. We're ready to destroy their culture. We are ready to annihilate them from this period. So this is how the story of the 1800 goes. We have the opener of the way, the birth of the Black Republic, the African, the centuries unwary people, and then the surveying of the African continent. Now, let us learn from the Chinese, and I'm going to read this for all of you to understand. The Chinese call the period of their history during which they were divided and under foreign domination, they call it the century of humiliation. If you ask the Chinese, why do you call this period of your history the century of humiliation? Because the Chinese said it was the point when we were blinded, when we were at each other's throat, when we were fighting each other. We had been reduced to the lowest strata of life. There was famine, there was death, there was instability, and foreigners were ruling us at every turn. We did not control our own fate. We did not control our own destiny. Other people were pulling our strings. Everybody was fighting each other. So the Chinese call this period a period of humiliation. Why would they choose a period in their history and mark it humiliation, a period of humiliation? Because they did not want to be a misguided people. The only time a person can correct their mistakes is if the person confront their mistakes and own up to their burden in the mistake. You have to look at your own burden in the mistake. You cannot just point the finger at, oh, it's their fault. It's their fault, right? You cannot fix a problem by thinking it's their fault, it's their fault. You have to look at your fault in the matter. What did you do wrong? What were you doing? What was your failure in the matter? And this is when you realize this, what was your fault, you are going to experience what they call humiliation. You are going to regard this thing as a humiliation. And when you regard it as a humiliation from this point onward, you will never want to relive the experience again. So the Chinese, although have a profound respect for their ancestors, came to understand that during the period which their ancestors were not acting in true Chinese might and strength and unity, and foreigners ruled them, they declared these periods a stain upon their collective greatness, a century of humiliation, which served as a reminder of what mistakes should never be allowed to be relived. They wanted to make sure their children understood that never behave like these group of Chinese. These are the group of Chinese in our ancestral lineage. You do not want to follow their way of thinking. So we must never relive this mistake. That is what they did. And so they were able to rise because they understood the humiliation. And they understood those who did what they needed to do, the people who did the great things, and the people who brought humiliation to them. They understood this part of the history very well. And that allowed them to make discernment. So may the African people one day choose to learn from this same wisdom of the Chinese also. May you all one day come to the conclusion that there are portions of our history we must be accountable for. And we must look at our own actions in that history and say, we are not proud of the ancestors' actions that they took. We should not follow their path. Rather, we should follow the path of those ancestors who have done great things. We should be able to distinguish the good from the bad. We should be able to distinguish that which brought us down and that which makes us great. And so this is the intention of this era, this century, for us to learn. Now, you're all going to learn something brief today. I introduced this into the lessons, but I want you all to learn it anyway. Today, I'm going to explain what is the difference between organizers and politicians. I wasn't supposed to add this to the lesson, but I'm going to add it anyway, because what this is doing is this is building for all of you to understand what to do next. Now, politicians, what we call politicians, politicians are they're a practitioner of something called politics, a Greek system that was an imitation of what our ancestors originally have. When the Greeks came to our world, the world of our ancestors, they found a system which our ancestors had called the free will of the people. And the Greeks created an imitation of this system called politics. And the people who practice the Greek version of this system, these are called politicians. Now, politics means affairs of the city. In the modern world, in 2025, politics is described as a set of activities that are associated with decision-making in a group or other forms of relations amongst individuals, such as the distribution of status and resource. So in the modern 2025 context, politics is associated with decision-making in a group or other forms of power relationships. That means the status. Who's going to become the elite? Who's going to become the middle class? Who's going to be the low class of a society? All that comes from politics. And resource distribution. Who's going to get the bulk of the money? Who's going to get less money? Who's going to get the lowest part of the money? All that comes from politics. Now, politics or political parties are what governs politics. They are political parties. Political parties are the differing fractional groups having opposing ideas or decisions on the status and resource distribution. So a political party is a group of people in direct opposition to a position, a group of people in position. That is what a political party is. They are fractions of people coming together to oppose each other's ideas or oppose each other's decisions. That's what a political party is. Now, partisanship. Partisanship is the ardent devotion to the party. So this fractional group that you have, your dedication to this group, you imprint on this group, the way you imprint to this group, the way you think this group is an extension of your own blood and skin, this is your partisanship belief. So it is your devotion to a party's view. Whatever the party likes, you like it. Whatever the party is opposed to, you are opposed to that. You are fighting that. That's what a partisanship is. Now, political fractionalism. Political fractionalism is the division of people into opposing ideas and beliefs. So they take a people and they say, we are going to fractionalize each of these people into a subdivision groups with opposing beliefs and ideas and put them in competition for popularity. So you are all going to be opposed to each other, and then you are going to be fighting for popularity. Every one of you are going to be fighting for popularity. And so the competition for popularity, oppositional ideas and beliefs, competition for popularity, and then there is an election. And through this election, you have the chance of making decisions concerning the power dynamic. You have control of the power dynamic. You have control of the status of or distribution of status and resource. You have it. So your partisanship with all of these things involved in this political fractionalism, you oppositional ideas and beliefs, competition for popularity, and then now you have the power dynamic and you have the ability to distribute status and resource. That is and then the outcome of politics is competition for power. Whoever is in position is going to have opposition. Decision-making can be challenging in politics because at every turn, making a decision requires another person to challenge it, So everything is being challenged, everybody's fighting for resource, attention, and so the focus of the people becomes stagnant. So in the 1800s, Africa is introduced to politics. Africans experience politics. So our governance system, our entire government system, something was introduced in the 1800s, and this thing is called politics. And this politics now is started to fester. Like imagine I cut you, then I start putting feces in the wound slowly so that the wound can rot. I infect the wound so that the wound can become rot. Or I inject you with poison, and then the poison takes its time to slowly kill you. It takes 100 years or 80 years for the poison to slowly kill you. And so this is the origin of our idea of politics. Now, what are organizers? To organize is to arrange or to set something into a structural whole, to bring order to something. For you to bring order to something, where there was an imbalance or something was disorganized, an organizer brings something into, or they arrange it, they set it into structure, the whole, they make it whole. Now, to organize is to systemize things, to create a system, a method to methodize something so that it can function well. So when they came to Africa, they established a system because they organized the system and they created all of it. So they systemized it, they created a method and its functionality, and that is how this Africans embraced it slowly. And so organize is something that you can do for good or for evil. You can arrange something, you can make a structural whole, you can bring it together, systemize it, methodize it so it's functional, or you cannot. Now, every organizational has a goal. In order to organize, there must be a goal. You cannot just organize something without a goal. There must always be a goal. And that is called the organizational goal. What are the organizational goals? They are the finished and established product. That means I have tested it, I have done the work, and it is complete, and it is now the system. And this is what creates our aim, our results, what we want to work for, what we want to achieve, what we want to continue to work for, what we want to gain longevity and sustainability in. So an organizational goal is a finished and established product, the aim for a result, and what we want to work for, what we want to continue that work for, gain longevity and sustainability in. Now, how best to advance your organizational goal? The only way to advance an organizational goal is you must use your culture. There's no other way to advance an organizational goal except to use your culture. Culture, what is culture? Africans, you ask people, I show you 10 images of culture, and I show you one culture or one image of a rocket ship, a mathematical formula, and people dressed in African clothes, dancing and singing, and 99.99% of Africans will choose the people in clothes, dancing and singing as the definition of culture. And the rest of nobody will probably pick the mathematical formula or the rocket ship. There's not a single African that would pick that as culture, because you don't know what culture is. You've been told that culture is dancing and singing and dressing up, which is not true. Culture is the finished product of pragmatic actions, thinking, and speech. We do not attain culture until we have established our pragmatic thinking, speech, and action. What is an example of this? How do I explain this? How do I give an example of this for all of you to understand? For example, you see a big field over there. Now you see that field, there's grass there. Then you have an idea. You say, well, what if I move the grass out of this field? And what if I dig a hole there and I put food in the ground? And when I put this food in the ground, then I sing while I'm planting the food. Then when I sing while I'm planting the food, I harvest the food, then I share with my neighbors. And when I share with my neighbor, we all eat well, and then we go back the next month and we do it again. Then we go back the next month and we do it again. Culture begins with the pragmatic actions, thinking, and speech of a people. It's not dancing or singing. Contrary to what people have been taught, you've been taught that our culture is our dance, our sing. No, 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 no. Culture is the finished product of pragmatic action, thinking, and speech. We do not attain culture until we have established our practical thinking, speech, and action. So the best way to advance your organizational goal, any goal you have, you must use your culture. Now, how to complete your organizational goal? We only achieve our organizational goal through something called the application of power. When we focus our power, that means we focus pragmatic thinking, speech, and action. That means we have one thought, one speech, and one action. And from these applications of power, we create the result. And this is called culture. This is how we achieve our goals. So you don't achieve your goals in life if you are doing it other than this. It comes with one thought, one speech, one action. Pragmatic thinking, speech, and action. That is what culture is. So these are established as the best means of our one organizational goal. That means our ancestors started this long ago. Then they realized this is the best way for our children to achieve a goal. And then they say, from today on, we are going to teach this to all our children so that they can achieve each of their goals in life. And that is how our culture came into existence. Our culture came into existence through the pragmatic thinking, speech, and actions of our ancestors. One thought, one speech, and one action, and then they created our culture. And that was defined as the best way for us to live on planet Earth, for us to organize, and for us to do anything we want to do, for us to systemize. That was what they said. So, finished product of pragmatic thoughts, speech, and action equals something called functionality. The system functions. The system works. This means the thing works. The wheels are rolling because you have established the culture in it. And the functionality, according to our ancestors, must, before human beings begin to establish this, they must have 5 characters that will manifest Ubuntu. A lot of you have been learning about Ubuntu from many sources, and you all have a narrow understanding of Ubuntu as humanity. It means humanity. Ubuntu creates, after Ubuntu has completed its way, its function, its pragmatic thoughts and speech and action, then a thing occurs within that Ubuntu called humanity. It's not humanity. Ubuntu is not humanity. Ubuntu is that which we create through the pragmatic thinking, speech, and action, the one thought, one speech, and one action, right? It is created through 5 characters that a human being must possess: success to all, forethought, foresight, selffulness, and character of sacrifice. That means our ancestors said each and every one of us must have an idea of success to all. Forethought, we must all be thinking forward. thinking for tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. We must think as far as 1 million years if necessary. That is why our ancestors carved their history in stone. Forethought, foresight. Our ancestors saw that one day their children might be lost, blind, deaf, lose every sense of self, and so they had the foresight to carve their knowledge in stone. Foresight. Selffulness. Our ancestors said that in order for you to accomplish everything, you must possess knowledge of self, knowledge of of nature, knowledge of your ancestor, knowledge of your ma'at, and knowledge of your enemy. So know thy creator, know thy environment, know thy ancestor, know thyself, and know thy enemy. Whosoever possesses these 5 knowledge of self gains what they call selffulness. There are many things that you need to acquire for you to gain selffulness, but once you have gained selffulness, a new being emerges within you called character of sacrifice, where you are now willing to sacrifice, even if no one is paying you, even if you're not getting a cent, a single cent from anything, you are willing to do the work because you have manifested the 5 character of Ubuntu. And when you have these 5 characters of Ubuntu, it is then reflected, it is then seen in the eyes of other people as humanity. Other people see it and they say, oh, there is humanity over there. That is what it is. But people have been misleading everybody nowadays and telling them Ubuntu means humanity, and they don't tell you how our ancestors understood it because they themselves don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. So let us go into the hierarchy of power, the African social organization. How do Africans socially organize themselves? If we are going to talk about organizing and organization, how did our ancestors socially organize themselves? And so we have a tree here. This is a baobab tree. And this baobab tree, these are the most enduring tree in the African continent, each of them over 1 million years old. Every baobab on the continent is at least over 1 million years, or maybe 5, 10 million years old. Maybe even more than that, maybe 60 million years. That is why when an African cut down a baobab tree, it is like, I mean, it is the most ridiculous thing in the cosmos. I think the whole cosmos, even the creator of the universe, weeps for the African when he does that. I have a feeling, I think the creator, all the ancestors just start crying as soon as an African gets the machete and cuts down the baobab tree. Because a baobab tree symbolizes millions and millions and millions of years of foundation. The strongest, most sturdy foundation on the earth. That's what it symbolizes. So here is the hierarchy of our culture. Our culture is like a tree, exactly like a baobab tree. And in this baobab tree, everything below the earth, where the earth is covering the tree, and everything that is invisible, everything below, these are called the perfect dark ones or the sovereigns. These are called the original ancestors of the African people. Everything below the earth where the children are standing, everything below it, that's where the ancestors are, the perfect ancestors. Now, everything below the surface is called the spirit world. This is where the spirit world is, below the surface. And everything above is called the material world. That is how our ancestors understood this. This gives us, our culture gives us our basis for comparison. Our culture gives us the ability to compare things. How do we compare? How do I compare my right hand to my left hand? How do I compare my right eye to my left eye? How do I compare today to tomorrow to the day after tomorrow? The culture is the basis of comparison. Understanding that allows people to measure their accomplishments, their past, present, and future, the quality and standards with which they must strive to achieve. That is what the culture is supposed to tell you. So, below the earth, ancestor, the perfect beings, the spiritual world. Now, above, in the middle of the tree, this is called the preeminent culture of Africa. This part of our culture is called the preeminent. Everything here is called the preeminent, the pinnacle of extraordinary African. These ancestors who dwell in here, this part here, they are called the great, great, great dark ones, the legendary ancestors, the 5 unifying concept of Africa. They established something called the 5 unifying concept of Africa, the 5 truth of Africa. These ancestors who dwell in this place here called the trunk, they are the 5. The 5 truth, which is the creator, nature, ancestor, Ma'at, Ubuntu. Those are the 5 truths they establish for their generations. Now, when a tree is rich, when it is well-nourished, the tree creates many branches as a result of its well-nourishment. So, these branches are called the heroes of our culture, where the heroes, the pillars of our culture, the heroes, the clan or heroes, or whatever you would call it, these high heroes, they are called the high heroes, the generational heroes. They map the world and they cure the diseases. The ancestors who cured the diseases, the ancestors who mapped the world, the ancestors who did all these things, this is their level on the tree of life of Africa. Now, where do you fit in, all of you here in your ethnic group? You all fit in the clan ancestor. We are all over here where the branches are. This is us. The clan ancestors, the offshoot of the clans. The clans that emerge from the clans, those that splinter off from the clan to emerge as new clans. So, these branches and these leaves symbolize the modern Africans. And this culture here symbolizes the infected culture, the culture which is no longer connected to this culture below here, the preeminent culture, the pinnacle of extraordinary, the culture that is not here anymore. So this culture here is desynchronized, is individualistic, is tribalistic, is ethnicalistic, whatever you call it, because every branch thinks it is the final tree. Because the branch is so far away from the root, it is thinking that it is the root itself. And these branches, which are the clans of Africa, they think they are the roots. They think they are individuals, that they are sovereign nations. They are sovereign people. They don't realize that the Africans are so great that the Africans created a tree that is so massive that even a clan does not know their worth. They don't even know what they are part of. They think that they're the final line, when all they are is just a branch on a tree that is much greater than them. And so in the 1800s, we see the Africans are no longer here. They are no longer here. They are no longer here. They are where the branches are, the leaves. They are fragile, frail. And so it is easy for them to be overtaken. So our ancestors say when the totality of the tree is in harmony with itself, when they are all unified, they are unified through one bone, one blood, and one skin. This is called the Celestial Social Organization of Africa. That means we have achieved the highest level of organization in the universe. That means we are in total harmony with the root, the trunk, and the branches and all the leaves. We are in total harmony as Africans. But because we are in a complete separation, we cannot achieve the celestial social organization of our people. So, because of this, we have lost our statehood. We have lost our power. We have lost our mandate, our divine hunger, There is a void, emptiness inside of us. We feel fearful, cold. We have ambiguity, lack of clarity, lack of guidance in the world. We produce mediocrity. We are experiencing spiritual inertia, spiritual powerlessness. We are desynchronized, constantly at war with each other, constantly living by politics. We have severed the rope that connected all the branches to the tree. So, when the leaves, which is me and you, when the leaves die, the tree will stand. If the branches die, the tree will stand, the root will stand. So, our ancestors being the root, even if we die, even if we cease to exist, if all the leaves fall, them being the root, they will always survive, they will always stand. The ancestors will always stand. So no matter what mind you have been taught, what you've been told, how afraid you are of them, how uncomfortable you are of them, how individualistic you are, does not matter, because they will always outlast you. They will outlast you and me, because they are the root. They are the trunk. We are just the branches on them. And so the only way for us to succeed is for us to be in harmony with them. And through this harmony, we grow stronger, more powerful. And that is what you are going to learn about the Black Republic. So during the first 100 years that formed the 1800, we have the splintering clans at war with each other. The clans go to war with each other. Why? Because a European appeared amongst them. And now they begin to make the clans go to war with each other. And the clans who share the same tree begin to think that they are absolute. And they go to war with each other. And they wage war against each other so brutally that when they are so weak, when they've both been stabbed during the battle, now the European comes in and he swiftly cuts off both of their heads. And so now they all go to this place here. They have no purpose in life anymore. They have no connection to the divine. There is a void, an emptiness in them. They are cold, they are fearful, they lack clarity, they lack guidance, they are pale in measure, and every day they create mediocrity. They have a spiritual powerlessness that constantly, and they are constantly desynchronized. The leader and the people are constantly out of harmony, and all because of what we have done and we continue to do. Fragmented but sovereign people. So yes, our people were sovereign. One thing they like to say is the European came and the European did this to us and he did this to us and he did this. No, that's a lie. We were a sovereign people in the 1800s. We were sovereign. That means we had the choice. We could make the decision. We just make very terrible decisions. We made terrible, terrible decisions. And this person exploited our ability to make terrible decisions. And the more we made terrible decisions, the more he enjoyed and he got stronger and more powerful. He grows off our ability to make terrible decisions. He grows more powerful off the African's ability to make terrible decisions. And you can count on the African to make terrible decisions if the African begins to think that he is the tree. When you are just a leaf on a far branch and the true tree is over here and below the surface. When everything that is done below the surface and here, and you are all the way over here. How do you think you are you are that? So this is what caused the Africans to become what they lost the 100-year war. They lost it and they went into the century of humiliation for us. Ambition. This foreigner comes in, opportunity, trade. He brought opportunity to us and we were excited. He brought trade, excitement. The foreign investors came up with the concept of foreign investors. We loved it. Foreign investors, we loved it. We were passionate about it. Ambition. Now I'm going to become somebody important. competition. Now I'm going to fight and, wage war against my brothers and sisters. Greed, more for me. Fear, them versus me. Then the pawns, let's go, they took them from different part of Africa to wage war against their own people. And so they were lured and trapped and blind spotted. And then when they realized what was actually happening, late, okay, so let me continue. When they realized it was too late, 1884 came to Africa. And 1884 is when we realized what was actually happening. So, what is culture? What is identity? Identity is what we call the ego itself. It is one of the components of a person, of personhood. One of the components. The ego itself acts like a wall, like a fortress. It is the created self. That means it is a portion of you which you created, which you longing to express the creative action inside of yourself. You created a portion of yourself. Your pragmatic thoughts and speech and action created a portion of yourself called your culture. So what we cover ourselves with, the clothes that we wear, the way we do things, all these are part of our ego, our identity, right? That's what they realize. Our identity, the personality that was shaped from our memories. Our memories constitute our identity. Our experience, our identity. Our relationships, identity. Our values and everything that we identify with, mostly the tools and the illusions, all these sense of self, these are all part of our identity. The political personality, our opinions, our moral attitude, personality relating to our religion, our systemic belief, all of this community, all these are part of the identity. Our ethnicity, our tribal affiliation, our cultural values that stem from our tribal or society or social economical class, status and race, etc. All these are part of our identity. Our family rituals, our community rituals, our social rituals, our family circles, community circles, all these are part of our identity. So identity is something that you can create. You can shape it. You can make it better. You can make it stronger, more powerful if you choose, or you can make it weaker and weaker and weaker and smaller and smaller and smaller. But no matter what you do, these ancestors that constitute the whole body of the tree and what is below, these ancestors, they will outlast your identity. So any identity you create must leave room for them. It must leave room for the rest of the African people when you create an identity. That identity must leave room for the connectivity of African people according to our ancestors. Because if there is no room for them in this identity you created, when you isolate them, you will find yourself alone and against impossible odds. So, the ancestors of Kemet reincarnated in the year 1800. These two ancestors specifically, they reincarnated in the earth. And it will sound strange for now, but I will tell you exactly what happened. These two ancestors, the one they call Ampu and Wep or Wapwawet, they incarnated in the physical flesh because the people of a nation called Haiti, they made a contract with the ancestors. These people were facing a terrible injustice, so horrible. They were enslaved, they were brutalized in the worst possible way, and these people turned to the ancestral realm and they made a deal, a supplication with the ancestors, so that the ancestors would incarnate in the form of two ancestors. These two right here. And these two took the form of human flesh and blood and manifested in the leaders of the Haitian people. And so you find you are going to learn how this happened. So in Kemet, this dog, the man with the dog head, is called the sovereign of the decree of customary law. He is the decree. These beings are the decree of our ancestral tradition. That means they are actually the original essence of our culture. They symbolize the original root and stem of our culture, the customary law, what our ancestors, what their laws are, not what our modern laws, no, but what their laws are, what their systems are. They symbolize that. They symbolize what is ordained by customary law, the dignity of customary law, the central sovereign of the backbone of fire, civilization, the pillar of Africa itself. They symbolize Africa's culture itself. The one that is called Wep Wawet means opener of the way, the one who opens the path. His job is to prepare the way for something to happen, right? So in our ancestral culture, they said he was the first human being to prepare the way for death. He prepared the way for death. He prepared the way for us to have our spiritual system. He prepared the way for death. The second ancestor is called the judge, who judges by customary law. He judges people by customary law. So in Haiti, these people were at the mercy of the enslaver, the French, and they made a contract with their ancestors. They came together as one unified people, the whole tree. They forgot their clan. All of them forgot their clan. They forgot that they were Congolese, blah, blah, blah. They forgot all of that, and they came right over here like this. And when they came over here, they were able to trigger the energy of African culture itself, the core of African culture. They were able to trigger this and bringing these energies into life. So the contracts with our ancestors work like this. When we surrender our individuality and we immerse ourselves in their collective consciousness, one thought, one speech, and one action, one bone, one blood, one skin, this is when we are able to bring in these ancestors forth. Otherwise, they do not come into our world. They do not interfere with our lives. So out of all the revolution by enslaved people that are written about currently in the scholarly books, the Haitian Revolution was not just the most successful. A Black Republic was born out of this. This Black Republic was the torch of fire in the world. So when our people were falling, one group of people on the African continent are going downhill. Another group of African people across the sea starts going uphill. That is the dynamic of the 1800s. As soon as 1801 hits, the first year, 1801, these Africans are in a battle. These people called the Haitians, they're in a battle for their freedom. Where the cold, icy winter was in the process of striking the African people on the continent, where the African people were entering a winter on the continent, they were entering a place where they were going to be cold and winter-stricken. The Africans in the Republic of Haiti were embracing the torch of fire from their ancestors. And that was the dynamic of the 1800s. In 1802, there is a man named Toussaint Louverture. Toussaint Louverture, his name means the one who opens the way, opener of the way. Toussaint means all saints, the saints, right? And then Ouverture means the one who opens the way, he who opens the way. So in Kemet, this man to the left here is called the opener of the way, he who opens the way, Wep Wawet. Now, Toussaint Louverture, the opener of the way, the French word for opener of the way, the one who opens the way, he was one of the greatest military generals in human history, a strategist, a tactician, and the most prominent leader of the Haitian Revolution from 1792-93 all the way to 1802 and 1803 when he was killed by the French. But his job was to open the way for the next dog, which is Anpu, the war dog. So the both of them are war dogs. This one is the god of war who opens the way. And this one is the god of war who concludes the way, who finishes the way. So the two gods or the two energies take the form of African heroes in Haiti. And after they went, they make this supplication to the ancestors. All of them came together. They make this supplication to the ancestors. The ancestors reply, and the opener of the way comes. He's one of the greatest military general in history. However, he is not the one who's supposed to fix the problem. He's just there to open the way, to create the way. So he puts so much faith in the French people. What makes him unwary? What makes Toussaint Louverture unwary is, and naive in a way, is he put so much faith in the French, Napoleon, the colonizer, the slaver. He put his faith in them. So all his greatness could have been even greater, but he put his faith in these people, and so he was killed by them. He was killed by them. But that is the same story of Wep Wawet in Kemet. Wep Wawet is the opener of the way. He dies. When Wep Wawet dies, he becomes the one who goes to the ancestral realm and prepares the way for the next dog, which is Anpo. So now the next leader in the Haitian Revolution is called Jean-Jacques Dessalines. But let's go back further. How did the Haitians start their revolution? How did the Haitian Revolution come to be? What was the engine or the spark that created it? What was the context or the beginning of this? We are going to go all the way back to 1492. In the year 1492, the Battle of Grenada marked the defeat of the African Muslims called the Moors or the Maoris or the Berbers. So Black African soldiers who were mixed with non-Black foreigners who moved to the Iberian Peninsula, what you call Hispania. They got on their boats, their ships, and they crossed the Bering Strait of Gibraltar, and they arrived in Hispania in the year 709. And these Africans left the Sahara Desert. They crossed there under the banner of Islam, and they took over the Hispania or Spain. They conquered Spain from the people called the Germanic Visigoth people, Gaiseric people. They conquered them, they defeated them, and they took over Hispania, the ancestral land of the Phoenicians. So Hispania used to be the ancestral land of the Phoenicians. Long ago, it was their ancestral land. These people of the desert, their ancestral land was Hispania long ago. And they had been wandering in the desert looking for a way, and the Arabs came and brought a system called Islam. And these Africans embraced this system, and they jumped and they went back together in one voice, one speech, and one action, and they conquered Hispania. And when they defeated the Vandals, they began a golden age in Europe. These Africans called the Maori or the Moors, they civilized and taught the Europeans many things: architecture, literature, science, hygiene, mathematics, even aerodynamics and aviation. They taught the Europeans all of these. But the European had always planned to remove the African from their land. So even though the African had stayed in Europe for 709 years, even though the African came from Africa and stayed in Europe for 709 years, civilizing the European, building architecture and literature and teaching them hygiene, the Europeans always wanted to drive the Africans from their land. They always hated them and they wanted them to go. So as soon as 1492 came, the Europeans had the opportunity to drive out the Africans. Now, how did the Africans end up in Spain? There was an Arab named Musa bin Nasir. He's from the Yemen. He was a general, and he was made governor by the Umayyad Caliphate, the Islamic Empire. He was made governor of the province called Afriqiya. where the word Africa comes from. He was made over everything in the Sahara Desert region. He was made the governor over that region to wage war against the Africans, to force them to convert into Islam. And when they all convert into it, then they were going to take these Africans into the slavery, or they were going to take them into war. So Musa and his two sons prevailed over the rebels, the Africans, and they slaughtered nearly 300 all the Christians. That time the Africans were Christians because of the Romans were teaching them, because of the other people were teaching them. And these Africans, the 300,000 captives, were converted to Islam, and they were used as soldiers. So contrary to what people tell you that the Arabs fought and the Arabs conquered the world, it was not the Arabs who conquered anything. It was African men whom had been converted, whom had been made soldiers, and they went and they conquered the entire Europe again. So it's not the African men are weak. It is that the African men lack the organizing principles of self. And other men who possess those organizing principles of self can come into Africa, take the bunch of African men and put them to task so those African men can achieve a goal. So this was the case. The Africans were taken as slaves all across the world. They fought in the Sultan Wars. They fought across everywhere. African men were the fiercest fighter on the planet Earth. They fought in every battle, and they were great men, but none of the glory went to Africa because the Arabs, who were their superior officers, took all the glory for them. So it was Africa's strength and power that made the Umayyad Caliphate powerful. It was Africa's strength. If you remove the strength of every African man and woman and child, there would be nothing but desert dwellers. So the Africans set up them, they are great. They're just not great to themselves, but they are great under other people's rule. You know, because why? They disconnect from the original tree. So it was from this moment, these 300,000 people, that they went to Europe and they conquered Europe and they civilized Europe, and they lived there for 709 years until their defeat in 1492, and the defeated Africans who were no longer African in mind and spirit. Because if I took you out of Africa for 709 years, you're going to lose your identity as an African completely. Now imagine the African Americans were taken out of Africa for just 400 or 300 years, and many of them lost their identity completely. Now imagine if you were an African who was taken out of Africa for 709 years, you would have no more identity left. So the defeated Africans who were no longer African in mind and spirit, but they were Europeans in their minds and their spirit. You know, most of their bloodlines had mixed with the European royal family in Europe. You know, they were black and yellow, how do you call it? They liked yellow mixture people and near white people. All of them were black Africans because they had gotten there through Africa. But gradually they lost who they were because they lived in Europe for 700 years. So they had been away from Africa for 700 years. They no longer remember anything about being an African. They were Europeans in mind and spirit, except for their skin color, which was also changing as well. So when the Reconquista of 1492 was finished in Hispania, and the Africans had been defeated at Grenada across Europe, the Africans were put in ships and they were sent to Brazil, Haiti, Argentina, etc. And these Africans that showed up formed a substrata of the group called the mulatto. These Africans came, they formed a group called the mulatto. So you had the Africans who were taken from the continent as slaves on ships, and then you had the Africans who were in Europe as Moors taken there, and they formed a two separate group, the mulattoes and the how do you call it, the Africans from the soil, and then the European above. So the European created the three-class system, which are the three colors. White, which is the highest class, yellow, which is the next class, and black from Africa, which is the lowest class. And this was the condition in Haiti. The three groups of people lived like this. The Africans who were taken straight out of Africa today were brutalized, tortured in the most severe way. And the Africans who were taken from Europe, and they were stayed there, they were also treated poorly, but they were given little better treatment than the African of the soil. They were given better treatment, so they became a middle class. And then finally, the European was above. He created this system deliberately so that the Africans could be at odds with each other. And that created the three class in Hispania, or in Haiti, Brazil, Argentina, and that is what caused the colorism, the biracial people, and in the whole system that they created, the mixed race class, etc. That was what caused it to begin. So the European killed the natives, took their land when they got to Haiti, they killed the native Haitians, which were the Tainos or the Native American types. They killed the Native American types, took their land. Then they brought those people from Hispania and they parked them there. Then they started bringing Africans from the Congo, and they started bringing Africans from Senegambia, Central Africa, Benin, the whole of Nigeria and Ghana, and South Africa. Wherever they could find an African for sale, they dragged those Africans and they brought them into this colony. So this land, Saint-Domingue, right, the French colony of Saint-Domingue, now needed free labor to bring the land to life. So they killed the natives. They needed free labor to bring the land to life, to bring capital and wealth of Europe, to build European capital and wealth. So the African continent had an abundance of Black people. The Europeans knew that the African continent has so many Black people, and they wanted those Black people to come and build the wealth of Europe. So they begin to now use politics in Africa. They use politics in Africa, and now they had Black people being shipped in abundance across the seas. And so the European created three classes in their slavery colony plantation. The white class was the master class. The mixed race was the second class, those who came from Europe and those who were born through the violation of an African woman. So if a European man, a Frenchman, violated an African woman and the child was born through their union, that child would fall into the second class, but the mother would be the lowest class. And that was the war captives of Africa were coming in ships upon ships, filling up this place called Haiti. So the newly arriving Africans were coming from Senegambia, Congo Kingdom, Central Africa, Benin, the whole of Nigeria and Ghana. Africans were known for fighting and overthrowing ships. It's true. Many of the Africans would say, I don't want to be enslaved. They would overthrow the ship and they would sink the ship. All of them would go to the ancestral world together. They did not want to be a part of the slavery thing, so they just automatically killed themselves and they killed everybody on the ship, and the ship went to the bottom. That was called a loss for the Europeans. They call it a loss. But they did not stop. It did not deter them. Just because one group of Africans sunk the ship and killed everybody on it did not mean that they would stop. They kept coming to Africa for more. So Africans were known for fighting. They did die in the process of trying to free themselves, and they did kill their enslavers. But those Africans who arrived to the port, they experienced the greatest hell. Is that even the devil himself, Lucifer, the Satan, is not as clever as the hell. He's not even able to engineer the hell which these Africans experience when they arrive in Haiti. They experience the most brutal place on planet Earth. Beyond that, even if you put an African in the pits of hell, that African would be better off than that African was in Haiti. Haiti was a living hell. And the Africans were being piled up there. They would die, they would bring them back to fill up the quota. They would die, they would bring them back. They were just filling the quota of Africans every time. So the recipe for the Haitian Revolution started to take shape. There are many components of the recipe of the Haitian Revolution. And one of the first recipe is called Dutty Boukman. Dutty Boukman, again, is another Kemetic being. There is a being in Kemet who goes with the book. He is the sovereign of the book. One of these three sovereign, he's the sovereign of the book. And because he's the sovereign of the book, he is enshrined with the book. He is the one who went around in our ancestral time preserving the book, teaching the book. And so this Dutty Boukman, who came from Jamaica, arrives in Haiti, in 1791, and became the architect of the Haitian Revolution. He was born to a Muslim family in Senegambia, and he was enslaved to Jamaica, and he eventually ended up in Haiti, where he became the leader of the Maroons and the Vodun Hogan priest. So that is how the Haitian Revolution started to take shape. The first person, Dutty Boukman, comes into play. Now, Africans have been taught their entire lives to be passive. Yes, our culture teaches us to be passive. Our culture gives us a narrow understanding for who we should be because we have misunderstood culture. We think that culture is supposed to be a passive thing, where we are passive as a people, where singing and dancing and celebrating is the definition of African culture. That's what we have been taught. But you have no idea that is the farthest from African culture. That is the lowest, most narrow understanding of culture that anyone can teach you, that African culture is based around singing and dancing and this and that. No. Africans handled a lot of cruelty because of the miseducation we receive in our culture. Because our culture tells us to constantly be dancing and singing and passive and all these things, we experience a lot of cruelty and abuse. The most extreme level of violence we as Africans, we tolerate. Where a European would never tolerate this violence for more than 24 hours. Even less than that, he will be trying to overthrow. We tolerate it for a long time as Africans. And we do it because of our culture. It is in our cultural psyche that Africans are always passive when it comes to non-Africans. But the only time we Africans behave violent like beasts is when we are at war with each other. When there is an African we think we should fight, we behave like the most bestial being in the universe. And so this is due to our culture. The way this twisted understanding of our culture that is created, that is what came out of that. But Haiti is different. Haiti was unique because there was no time for Africans to hate each other in Haiti. You had no time to hate someone because you were going to die just like them. The Haitian could not even hate each other. They could not even say, oh, I'm a proud Kalonji, whatever you are, whatever ethnic group. I'm a proud Mendi, I'm a proud Tigray, I'm a proud Noor. You couldn't even be proud of your ethnic group in Haiti because there was no room for it. You didn't know when you were going to die. Nobody cared about their ethnic group. Everybody just cared about being free from the condition. So the condition was so brutal, Africans were brought to just to replace the people that were dying. Africans were being brought. And that was the second component of the Haitian Revolution. The cruelty and the death of all Africans was equal. Then this made the component for revolution ripe. The Africans were willing to fight as one bone, one blood, and one skin. They did not want to be divided at this point anymore. They did not see division anymore. They didn't care about your ancestor, my ancestor. They just wanted unity amongst themselves so they could fight and liberate themselves, to free themselves. Everybody wanted the same thing. And the final component that was introduced into the Haitian Revolution was the militaristic Africans. These were introduced to the pot. So when those Africans on the African continent, we had murderers and killers. And when those killers were defeated in a battle and they were taken into slavery, they ended up in the island as well. So we had on Africa, on our side, we had warriors, very strong and powerful, serial killer, people that could behead you, great warriors, killers of the highest order. These Africans, when they were added to the pot of Haiti, Haiti started to boil over because the militaristic Africans had arrived. And so the militaristic Africans now, the murderers, the people who didn't flinch, who didn't care about so and so, when those Africans were entered the picture, the Haitian Revolution was instigated by slaves in an attempt not only to liberate themselves, they didn't just want to liberate themselves, but they wanted to remove the French people, every single French man, woman, and child. They wanted to remove them from the island completely. That was the goal. The goal was, we need to remove these people completely from this land, and we need to stay free from them. So Professor Baina Bello is the one, she's the source of much of the Haitian Revolution. If you want to learn anything about Haitian Revolution, start with Professor Baina Bello. She's the one who always speaks about the women of the Haitian Revolution. So one of these women raised this militaristic African women, one of these militaristic African women who is taken as captives. She's brought to the island. She begins to raise the second incarnate from Kemet, the second dog from Kemet, the second one, Anpu. She begins to raise him in the form of Jean-Jacques Dessalines. And she trained him in his early militaristic training, and she was the one who would teach him how to fight, strategy, etc., and to think militaristically. And this is what set up the Haitian Revolution for success. So, August 22nd, 1971, Bookman gathered enslaved people from neighboring sugar plantation. The enslaved people elected Bookman to act as their leader and commander, where they began their work setting plantation ablaze and killing and capturing plantation's owner and their family. Scholars mark the burning of Knoll Estate as the beginning of 1971 revolt that led to the Haitian Revolution. Across the Caribbean, including Cuba, Brazil, and many other islands, St. Thomas, and so much, the Africans were rebelling, but the Africans did not have what the Haiti has. Those Africans whom had been brought over as war captives to live as cattle and slaves of the Europeans were fighting against the Europeans, but Haiti stands above all other African people because they were successful. They achieved freedom. Next to Ethiopia, Haiti is the only other country. I think Haiti and Ethiopia are the only two countries. People like to mention Liberia, but Liberia is nowhere near Haiti and Ethiopia. Those are the only two countries which decided to use the most militaristic violence to liberate themselves. They did not have any notions that they knew that they would be enslaved and they would be killed, they would be mistreated, and their only goal was liberation. So, her name is Abda Raya Toya, Victoria Muntu, was a Dahomey warrior, military, and freedom fighter in Jean-Jacques Dessalines' army during the Haitian Revolution. Before the revolution, she and Dessalines had been enslaved on the same estate, and the two remained close throughout their life, Dessalines calling her aunt. So the woman that taught Jean-Jacques Dessalines to become the second architect of freedom was one of these women you see here. She looked exactly like these women. She received the same training as these women, and she knew how to wield the weapon the same way as these women. And she taught this man to become a military man. And if you gave her a machete, she could take a human head just like this woman here, and she would have been part of the sisterhood of these women. She would have been a cold stone killer. She would have been a stone cold killer, just like every one of those women in this picture. Every one of these women in this picture would be a stone cold killer. They would not hesitate to put you under the ground. So it was the type of women that instructed the second dog of the Haitian, of the dog spirit. So Toussaint Louverture died 1 year before the final and most violent stage of the Haitian Revolution. The battle for the Black Republic at the Battle of Vertières, Bataille Vertières, for the sovereignty of the Haitian people. They have total freedom. His spirit, what's his name? Jean-Jacques Dessalines, his spirit is called Opener of the Way, the spirit of Wapwawet. He opens the way when he dies. And his achievements set the ground for the Haitian army final victory through his mentorship and successor, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. So Jean-Jacques Dessalines defeats Napoleon army. They annihilate Napoleon army. They defeat them. They slaughter them. They experience massive loss in all the battles they fought at the hands of the Haitian army. And they say the Haitian armies was organized, disciplined, committed to their goal. They had one thought, one speech, and one action. All of them. He treated the French exactly as they would have treated him if they had won. The thing is, he liberated the Polish people who helped, the Polish people who volunteered, who said they're not going to fight against the Haitians. He did not do anything to the Polish people. And there are many of the other people he did not do anything. But the people who came to destroy him, he showed them no mercy. He gave them no pity. And so the French enslaver capitulated and withdrew permanently from the Santo Domingue. The same year, the Haitian Revolution continued under Jean-Jacques Dessalines. But Jean-Jacques Dessalines sadly was assassinated by another African. So the African people who were supposed to be his companions now, they assassinated him. So the one who assassinated him is called Pétion, or Henri Christophe. I don't know how they did it or what they did, but they ended up assassinating him. And so they broke the contract with the ancestors from this point. So when they assassinated this, they cut the link. That means the Africans at this point cut the chain with the ancestors. So that means whatever contract they had made with the ancestors, they officially cut the chain and they were now divided. The Haitian island divided into two groups, one under Henri Christophe, the other under Pétion, and Pétion believed that he had to negotiate with the French people. He wanted to bring democracy of France. He wanted to turn Haiti like France. And the other Henri Christophe wanted to follow in Dessalines' footsteps. And so Haiti ended up back to where it started. It ended up as a free republic, but because they paid a huge ransom to France, the Haitian people ended up in the condition they are today. And with the invasion of the Americans in the 70s, then the Haitian people ended up completely far. So this brings us to the conclusion of our first half of the 1800s, which is, this is the Haitian Declaration of Independence. I'm going to read just the first page, but it's very long, and if you get the chance, go and read it on your own. The commander-in-chief of the people of Haiti, it is not enough to have expelled the barbarians who blooded our lands for 2 centuries. It is not enough to have restrained those ever-evolving factions that after another mocked the specter of liberty that France dangled before you. We must, with one last act of national authority, forever assure the empire of liberty in the country of our birth. We must take any hope of re-enslaving us away from the inhuman government that for so long kept us in the most humiliating temper. In the end, we must live independent or die. Independence or death. Let these words unite us and be the signal for battle and our reunion. Citizens, my countrymen, on this solemn day, I have brought together those courageous soldiers who, as liberty lay dying, spilled their blood to save it. These generals who have guided your efforts against tyranny have not yet done enough for your happiness. The French name still haunts our land. Everything reviles the memory of the cruelty of this barbaric people. Our laws, our habits, our towns, everything still carried the stamp of French. Indeed, there is still French in our island, and you believe yourself free and independent of that republic which is, it is true, has fought all the nations, but which has never defeated those who wanted to be free. What? Victim of our own credulity and indulgence for 14 years, defeated not by French armies, but by the pathetic eloquence of their agent's proclamation. When we tire of breathing the air that they breathe, what do we have in common with the nation of executioners? The difference between its cruelty and our patience, moderation, its color and ours, the great sea that separates us, our avenging climate, all tells us plenty that they are not our brothers, that they never will be, and that if they find refuge amongst us, they will plot again to trouble and divide us. Native citizens, men, women, girls, children, let your gaze extend to all parts of this island. Look there for your spouses and husbands and brothers and sisters indeed. Look therefore. So this concludes our first chapter of the 1800 Pinnacle of Extraordinary African. The floor is now open for those of you who have questions and comments.
Yes, thank you so much, Teacher Mitri. Yes, those with questions, please, you can raise your hands so that we can call you one by one to ask your questions, and the teacher will answer all the questions. So those who are going to ask, please, when you have been called your name, I will call the names as they appear on the screen, then you unmute and then you talk. Thank you. The first to present the question is Africa.
Hello.
If I could pronounce it correctly or wrongly, please pardon me.
That's correct. It's usually Chisomo Grace. It's because I'm using a different phone. Anyway, we've got hundreds and hundreds of questions. On the divisions about white, mixed, what we call colored in Southern Africa, and Black people. So that is still happening today in Africa, kind of. In South Africa, it's kind of still enforced. I don't know whether it's enforced or it just happens, but the mixed race people, as we've seen, they from this YouTube, they live in separate locations. And then I don't know what's happening with the whites these days. But again, it was whites over there, blacks over there, colored people over there. It was the same in Zimbabwe. It didn't happen in Malawi, it didn't happen in Zambia. But I think because we got independent early and the presidents kind of stopped those kinds of living. So now you get that in, you said in America, it looks like most of the people we call African Americans are mixed, like you're saying, the culture is lost. Was it the culture? The identity is lost. And then the color tone, skin color changes. And then there's that confusion, which I think we keep debating today on every WhatsApp group you go, on every YouTube you go. This is the discussion. Who is African? Who is not African? Who is a mulatto? Who is, it's such a heated debate that it's so sad, because certain people don't want to be identified as African, certain people want to identify as African. So there's so much confusion going on. But having attended this lesson, it's clarified a lot of things for me. if there was a chance for me to kind of listen to it again, I'd love that. Yeah, so there's this American side of things that's really, really bitter, and it causes so many heartbreaking arguments and division between, for example, if we are on that panel, I mean, because it's live, it's a live discussion that happens almost every day. And then you have the Africans in Africa, or Africans who are in the diaspora, and the African Americans, because we don't seem to understand each other, how these things came about. And like you're saying, everything got mixed up, and the identity got lost, and we're trying to explain, and we don't have classes like you're delivering. So I don't know how your classes can reach the wider audience to maybe in Africa itself, because we don't know in Africa either. So that's my first question, if it was a question at all.
The only people who can make it reach the wider audience is all of you out there. You come here, you benefit, and then you go out there and you find others that will benefit. So that's the only way we can go about it. Nobody's going to give me a platform for me to teach you all your history. Nobody's going to do that. So you all might as well just learn it here and then go and teach others.
Yeah. Yeah. So in South Africa, this is still happening.
Because the African culture is not in South Africa. You may be called South Africa. People may think that that is their country, their land. But as long as your culture is not permeating the land, then it's not your land. It's not you're not ruling it. You know, do you all rule by African culture in South Africa? No. Do you do anything by African culture in South Africa except music? The only thing you do with African culture in South Africa is music and dancing. I don't think you do anything else besides singing, dancing, and maybe rituals or things. But the true essence of the whole nation is governed by a non-African system. So you're not going to have anything that is African in that land until African culture governs that land.
Wow.
Thank you. We can have our next person to ask question. It's Darkness and Water. Please unmute and ask a question.
The one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. The one who comes to learn is especially always welcome. Positive and creation energies to you all. Positive and creation energies to you, Master Teacher. Positive and creation energies to my kinsmen. Thank you for the lesson, Master Teacher. What brought clarity to me is the lesson about the organizer and the thingy.
Politician.
The politician. It has been clear. Especially with what's happening now, with the politician has been reduced to a career opportunist. If you have a big mouth like myself, you are recruited. And it doesn't matter if you know, as long as you advocate for anything, especially if they see that you are just speaking your mind out, and you are not afraid to voice out your opinions. And they recruit you into the pool. They don't care if you know. They don't care if you are educated, if you are knowledgeable. All they want is someone that is just opinionated. So being an organizer, you know, with the principles of Ubuntu, you know, for me, it reminded me of a lecture that you once did about mind flow. A while back, you did that lecture, and you know, you took us through those principles of acquiring a mind flow, you know, through reflection, you know, reciprocating, and rapport. It took me through that. It took me through that lecturer, and in building an African child as well. And it took me through lecture 16 as well. It was for me, this whole lecture was a build up of that lecture. You know, Richard and I even spoke about it during the week, that, you know, these, for me, it's like it was a scope when you are studying for an exam, that this lecture is like, it's a scope that you go through, that, you know what, this is what I'm going to go through. Or it's a to-go-to page when you are preparing a speech for a seminar that you're doing, that you'll be speaking about, that you just go through it very quickly in order for you to remember. So it's vast, you know. And now learning about the tree, it's quite intriguing, and it's exactly what we are doing, and it's an eye-opening as to why are we in this predicament that we are in as Africans. Because there is that thing of them and us, and it's no longer about the enemy. It is the enemy that's within, that this is exactly what how we relate to one another, you know, that it's them, it's us, it's me, it's them. And I think this is what keeps us stagnant as Africans. We are unable to look at ourselves as the leaves. We see ourselves as the complete tree, and that's what stores us. And us not being able to take the full responsibility, always seeing the problem out there and not looking from within and taking the full responsibility as to we are here. And especially for me, as a South African, for instance, we've been 31 years into democracy. And when you look into it now, we see that this democracy has been a fallacy for us. It's not for us. It's not a system that has been designed for our liberation. It is not a system that has been to propel us, that has been for our progress. But at the same time, we look, when you really look into what is it that we have done in this 30 years, South Africa has been in the worst condition that it was when we took over in 1994, not because of we could not have done better. It has been in the worst condition because of our own incompetency, our own inefficiency, our own failures, because our very own people have lacked the capacity to govern. Our own people have lacked the capacity, and all we have done, we have blamed the apartheid system, we have blamed the white government, we have blamed the white people, and yet we not taking accountability of the failures, that we had not been manageable as Black people. We've been in office and we had not have the capabilities, we have not had the willpower to govern with the little that we had, amidst the fact that we lacked the resources. But with the little that we had, we have, we've not been able, we've actually run this country to the ground. And it hurts as a Black person to actually look into the reality of things in the country, and to see that the downfall of the country, despite everything else, it has become in the worst condition. We could have done things better. We could have we could have governed better, but now we have actually made the white people the savior. You know, we've made ourselves the laughing stock. And I know that as Black people we can govern better. I know that and I'm saying this from experience. You know, as a Black woman, I dared and stood up against the well-organized I stood up against the well-organized system. And when I did that, my very own people challenged me, and they crucified me. And that alone showed me that that's the reason that a Black government failed. And it's all because of that thing, that she cannot do better because firstly, she's a woman. That dared challenge a system that no one dares to challenge. And I did this with the principles of Ubuntu, knowing that I cannot fear, because fear is the absence of knowledge. Knowing that I cannot, I am not alone. I'm with my ancestors. Knowing that I stand by the principles of Ubuntu, that I am guided by the principles of Ubuntu, knowing that I am because you are, and which were the things that, which was my guideline, which was my philosophy, and I stood firm on that. So hence I was confident in knowing that a Black man can govern, and a Black man can govern better. But because of a Black man's mentality, it all crumbled. So this, what you are teaching today, it's a realization that we still have a long way to go, that as long as we are not taking responsibility, and the illustration that you made about the Chinese, that about humiliation. As long as we are not taking that as Black people, we would not win this war for now. But if we taking initiative, if we are taking the ownership of our own faults and saying that, but this is what we are doing wrong, and not doing it for us, but doing it for the generation that is coming, doing it for our bloodline, doing it for our homeland. Because for me, it's not about, for me, I'm saying it's not about me. It's about my children. It's about my bloodline. It's about my homeland. I hurt when I see the things that are done in my homeland. It cuts deep. It cuts so deep that this is the legacy I'm leaving for my children, for my children's children. So I'm grateful for this lecturer that you had given today, because for someone that's on the ground, it opens up a new hope.
Yes, my queen, can I just come in? May you just sum up your saying so that we catch up with time? I want to appreciate and thank you so much for your contribution, but you can just sum up and finish up.
Okay,
You can
I think
continue.
I'm done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Teacher Mitri, to you.
She's right. I mean, it's pain, you know. I listen to her, it's just pain. And that's what everybody feels that way. So it's pain, but here we are learning so that we can cope, we can overcome the pain. So that's what the knowledge does, is it helps us overcome the pain. Go ahead, next person. But I understand.
Okay. The next person is the princess.
Creative energy to every one of us here, especially to our great teacher. From today's lesson, we understand what is the root cause of this situation we find ourselves in. As the teacher said, we have lost our identity. So this is where we have to go back. We cannot try to build as branches. No, we have to go down there. And we must remember that as we are trying to build, our oppressor continue to destroy. And they are working according to a system. So as we are trying to fight as an individual, as a group of political party, no, we have to set also a system in place. If you Google, you will read the Charter of the Imperialists. I think it's 26 articles. These guys, they said that hide it in the open. They will not see it. The day is us. Those stupid will never see it. So it's there. They tell us how they operate. There is an article which says our modus operandi is divide and rule. It's what they are doing. So if we take that into account, we will know that whatever you try to do, them they are dividing, they will use your own brother against you. So we must fight for that unity. Look what is happening with Captain Traore. Fortunately, Africans are standing to defend him. This is what is going to spare his life. Otherwise, he was going to be assassinated, like the Gaddafi, the Lumumba, and the others. So let us go back to our identity. My sister, even the way you are speaking, when as we speak, it's always I. No, them, they don't speak like that, because they are together, They make a decision, they make a plan, and then they share roles. You hear France speaking this, United States saying this, for them to achieve that common goal. As we are not having a common goal, but I can see that it is coming. When they threaten the life of Captain Traore, Africans are mobilizing themselves on a platform. People are manifesting in their cities. They are going to get scared. So you will see when it reaches this, they won't kill that man. If we did not react like that by now, he was already a dead man. And who was going to kill him? Just those around him, especially one he called his brother. Because
What happened to her? I can't hear her.
Yes, I think we lost her. Maybe she'll come back. Let me just give this opportunity to Amos. Amos, you can unmute and then you can put your question.
Amen. Marcus Gavi, Malcolm, Amen Ra. Greetings to you, brothers, infinite power, infinite knowledge, infinite blessings, infinite greatness to you all. I have joined you a little bit later, my brothers and sisters. What I want to say, I can see that maybe I heard that many people, when it comes to our history, maybe they start from slavery or maybe apartheid, and our history doesn't start there. So if anybody you want to go back to your roots, you want to go back, you must go deeply. Without slavery, without apartheid, it's where we're gonna have the power to find ourselves who we are. Our knowledge is more deep. Our history is more deep. Without slavery, without apartheid, that's where we need to go back and fetch our history somewhere there. If we have the power, we can be able to even go back far to the stars and fetch our history there, because our history is there. So now, when we come to our countries, like I had our brothers talking about the colors. Okay, the colors that we are having in South Africa, there is a white man called John Donne. This white man, he was married, I'm sure, like almost like 28 African women. So they give him the cows and all the stuff. That's where he started to create these people we see today, the colors and all the stuff. I understand that maybe some other things might be happened before there and then and all the stuff. So Africans, if we want to rise, let us go back. Let us know each other. Let us forget about tribalism, because now we are experiencing some tribalism issues and all the stuff. So these things stops us from rising. So we need to forget about this. We need to know our land. Let us know our land first. There are so many people in Africa, they don't know their land. They don't know even the rocks that are there in the land. What types of the rocks? What types of the soil? They don't know at all. So how can you know yourself? You don't know the trees, you don't know the rocks, all of this you don't know. The whole Africa is filled up with some secret places, and then all the people, you ask anybody from South Africa or maybe from Zimbabwe, my brother, do you know, or my sister, do you know about Adam's calendar? They don't know. You ask somebody in Rwanda, do you know the mountain of the moon? They don't know. So Africans, to know ourselves, let us go back to our roots, to the hardcore history of our ancestors. That's where we're gonna go back and fetch the unity and fetch the love. So that's what I can say, my brothers. Peace to you all and love.
Thank you. Teacher Metri?
I mean, that's why we're on this journey. So we have to learn history from beginning to end. It's not pick one part of your history and then leave the other part. You have to go and learn the whole thing. Be an adult. Be mature enough to learn your own history from the ugly to the beautiful. Don't glorify the beautiful and be repulsed by the ignorant. Learn it all so that you are stronger and more equipped to deal with everything that comes following you. So that's my answer to both. The next person can come in,
Yes, we have a Skofrika. You can come in again.
Thank you. Like I said, I had so much, but anyway, I was intrigued by the explanation of the baobab tree. Where I come from, in fact, I was in Africa about a few months ago, and I was in an area where they had so many baobab trees. It's just that tree, when you look at it, it just makes you feel in a certain way. But you don't know the history or the story behind it or interpretation of it. We just eat the fruit that comes from it, and that's about it. But you look at it with so much fascination. And as I was looking at it and you're explaining it, I started to have that feeling again. But anyway, my other question is, my other issue is the political environment that we have today. So I note that again in South Africa, it's been ANC ever since because of the way they crafted the whole thing. And at least now they have a few other parties joining them. In Zimbabwe, it's the same thing. It's the same political party, and then constantly fighting the opposition, but without much success. But in my country, we have so many political parties. At one time, there were 65. We have elections coming up in about 100 days to come. We have about 19 people contesting as presidents, independent presidents, political party candidates. But I've always wondered what this whole thing is about. Because you see, perhaps in America, United Kingdom, and it's just two parties all the time. They might have others, but we only hear about the two. The two are the ones that contest and things like that. But in my country, we change almost every 5 years. So we're not making any progress because of these changes. And the way you've explained it, and I think I now understand better what's going on, although I had an idea. The thing that you explained about that they want certain people to be at a certain level and certain people to be a certain type. And then you have the elite running the whole show, and why people want to be politicians so they can be the ruling party, and then the divisions it creates, it's just getting worse and worse. Every time we change parties, it just gets worse. Around this time during elections, the divisions are just growing and growing. You fall out with your friends just because you've expressed an opinion against whoever they support. It's no longer about logic, that delivery, or making the country better. It's about who gets in, kick those ones out. People will come to alliances just to kick the other one out, create reasons for kicking them out, create reasons for bringing the new one in. The new one comes in, has no clue about what was going on, just creates another system that doesn't work. Just it's just so sad. So sometimes I think, do we really need this politics? Because we had a one-party system in the beginning, and then we introduced the multi-party system, and the whole thing just collapsed.
You know, I sense a lot of frustration today. That's fine. The it's a good thing because you know, a lot of it seems that after today's lesson, there's a lot of pain happening. People were becoming aware of a lot of pain. So I will say this: it's okay. We are conscious of it now. We are conscious of it. We can now teach others. You are equipped to teach another South African with this. I have just equipped you, all of you here, with the ability to teach another African with such clarity that that African understands. The more we educate our people, the next generation will be prepared. Remember I said a group or a generation in 100-year time, they perform an action and the next group benefits from that action because they perform this action and then the next group benefit. So if the group before us did something and they didn't do it well, then the group after us will have to do that all over from scratch. So what we have to do is we have to teach the people now. You all understand what organizing is. You all understand what politics is. We don't need, you know, if you're not being able to participate in politics, that is fine. You can also participate in the organizing. You can also strengthen yourself in the organizing aspect of things. The more organized you are, the more you will have control of your politics. So even though you might, where you go, if you're disorganized and you enter politics, you won't have control of your politics. But if you are already organized, well put together, and you enter any form of forum, you will be equipped to deal with that forum. So I understand all of your frustrations, South Africans especially, you know, so we will get there. We will get there. Brother Richard, or the next two people who have your hands up, go ahead and ask your questions. Brother
Yes,
Richard.
Richard comes first.
The one who comes in peace is always welcome. The one who comes to teach is always welcome. The one who comes to heal is especially welcome. And the one who comes to build systems is welcome. Positive and creation energy to you all. Mine is not a question, but is just a commentary. Can you hear me?
Very well.
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Thank you.
It is short and brief. That would be better for our time.
Thank you. I think the question before all of us, I think if we are here, we agree that we are knowledge seekers. But now the question is, what do we do with this knowledge? Now, it's something else to go and tell someone what we've learned here. But what I'm getting from here, and I'm getting that we need to revert back to those extraordinary Africans. We need now to cultivate a character and behavior that achieves Ubuntu. And how do we do that? I think for us who are gaining this knowledge now, within ourselves, let's build this character of an Ubuntu person. I was listening to the leader of Burkina Faso and also a video of the previous leader, Thomas Sankara, as to what their name meant. They said it means that the land of the upright people, or the land of honest people. Now, from understanding the teachings of Ubuntu, I'm thinking that these people meant to be those upright persons, those upright people who were cultivating the character and behavior of an Ubuntu person. So I think whether we are in politics or wherever we are, let's try to build a character of an
Forgot about
Ubuntu.
that. Well, because I was
Whatever.
going to take a bath this morning. So maybe just leave it because that.
Okay, continue.
Okay. And from this lesson, whatever we're trying to organize, let's do it in this framework whereby our thoughts and our speech and our actions has to achieve an Ubuntu outcome. But for us to achieve this Ubuntu outcome, we need to cultivate that character and behavior, to embed it within ourselves, whereby we seek to achieve within ourselves to have that attitude or perception and the power to achieve success for everyone, to have that forethought, foresight, and those other characters that have been mentioned, such as self-sacrifice and self-fullness. And one of our brothers, Brother Amos, mentioned about we need to go deeper into our history. Now, one of the characters that achieves Ubuntu outcome is know thyself. And within know thyself, there is about knowing the ancestors. So when you know your ancestors, then we'll be able to know such history like what we are learning today. And there's know your environment. He mentioned about some people that don't know where is Adam something, where is this rock, they don't know those type of histories. But when we know our environment, we'll be able to know our land, we'll be able to know what contains in our land, and we'll be able to know the science beneath above our land. So these characters, let's embed them within ourselves so that even when we take this knowledge to others, we ourselves, we should be those that are cultivating to be upright, to be Ubuntu person who is pursuing to achieve an Ubuntu outcome. And then we'll find ourselves in relation to that now teaching of that baobab tree, whereby now we'll be able now to inform people that in as much as we are leaves, but we should not think of ourselves as the whole tree. We are connected, we are an extension of each other in bone, blood, and skin, and we all stem from the same root. So I think my comment is, as one of the sisters asked, then how do we get this message across? Yes, we can tell others, but we can't just tell them as a copy and paste. We need to build character and behavior and attitude and perception and power of Ubuntu within ourselves. And that will cultivate us now to be able to be in alignment with our speech and our actions and our thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we'll give to Amos for the last. Maybe Amos is going to be the last and he'll be short because of our time.
Peace to you again, brothers Imhotep. Thank you for the time again. What I want to say, I want to just to say something about the baobab tree, because I hear you brothers talking about the baobab tree. So what's happening about the baobab tree? Our ancestors taught us the baobab tree is the descendant of the tree of life. So in your land, or maybe for an example, the Mashona people of Zimbabwe, there is a lot of baobab trees in Zimbabwe. When see the baobab tree, it tells
You're too staticky. Change your location or speak closer. I'm not sure. There's too much static. Try again. No, it's still bad. Still bad.
Okay.
Still bad.
Yes, my brother, my King Amos, you are not quite audible. We can hardly get what you are saying. Maybe it's because of your location or your mic or whatever.
Yeah, let me give a chance to someone. My signal is not okay.
If you want
Yeah,
to
it's
type
quite.
it in, you can type it in. If your signal is so poor, just type it in. We can read it also if we need to.
Yes, that's another alternative. I think the questions are done. Maybe while we wait for others, thank you so much, Teacher Mitri, because of our time. OneMap Africa will continue to bring you Teacher Mitri to this history class, and we hope whoever want to listen and those one, the recordings are also always available on OneMap Africa YouTube channel. If you are on our WhatsApp platform, you can just open the links are there. You get them. If you are not on our WhatsApp platform, please join our WhatsApp platform so that you can have all other materials which Teacher Mitri will share so that you can get them. Thank you, everybody, for attending this class. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us. You continue to listen. We are bringing this again once after every 2 weeks, so that next Saturday we are not having the class, but after next Saturday we will have another class for the same time, same venue, brought to you by OneMap Africa. We also have agriculture training on Sundays. We also have Kiswahili class on Fridays. So please join all what you are being offered to by OneMap Africa. And currently all these classes are offered for free. So feel free to join us and be part of us. And you can join all other our platforms to learn more about uniting ourselves as one people for Africans, because Africa is for Africans, and we are here to initiate that and make sure we unite. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for everybody for coming on board. I'm not sure I can see Score Africa is, we want to say something. I can just give you half a minute to say something before we can end.
I was just going to ask if there's any reading on the issue about Haiti, a book or something, or
Baina Bello is the best teacher I've read when it comes to Haiti Revolution. Baina Bello. I can put her name in the chat quickly. Let me type it in there quick.
Because Pidgin runs a library that's got hundreds and hundreds of books. So maybe I might find
yes,
it.
You can also put it on our WhatsApp platform, my Teacher Mitri, so that more people can also see.
I'll put
on the WhatsApp platform. So you will see it on the WhatsApp platform, and our links will be also there. If you want to listen again to this lecture, you are free to open up on our YouTube on OneMap Africa platform.
Yeah, and also
Thank you
about
so much.
those who went
Thank you, everybody.
Spain, or the Spanish story.
Go ahead, we're listening. Go ahead.
Yes, remember, Teacher Mitri is here. He continue to give us more light, and we continue to have whatever we want him to read, repeat. We can also do that as we go on. So he is free to do that. We urge you to continue to be with us on every Saturday or after every 2 weeks for this class. This class is available to us live and is presented by OneMap Africa. We can also chat on our WhatsApp platform. Whatever you want to know more, you can just ask from there. Teacher Mitri will be available to answer you from the platform as we go on, and also discuss the African history as we continue to learn from each other. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night, have a good morning, have a good afternoon, have a good evening, depending on wherever you are in the world. Thank you. This is the end of our session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Positive energy and creation.